All right, crocheters, here we are for video 2 in our Christmas in July crochet along, where we're making the Terri sea turtle that came out earlier in 2023. In the first video, we made the shell and the belly and got it all put together. And in this video, we're going to be making the head, sewing it on, and making the eyes, and shaping the head and embroidering on the nose. So that's what we're going to accomplish here, and let's get started. To make the head, we're going to begin with our color A yarn and our 8mm hook, and we'll start by making a magic ring. And row 1 will be magic ring, single crochet 7. So into the loop we'll work 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then pull that end tight and close off the row. Row 2 is going to be increase 7. So we've got an increasing stitch here and another increasing stitch, and so we're just going to work an increase stitch in each of the 7 single crochets from the first row. And here's the end of row 2. Go ahead and close it off again. And row 3 gets a little bit more complex. So we're going to start with a single crochet and then an increase. And we'll do that 3 times. So single crochet, increase, and last one, single crochet, increase. Followed by 1 single crochet. And we're going to be switching to our color C yarn, which I am doing a double strand of medium weight yarn because I like the color. I couldn't find the color that I wanted. So that's what I'm doing here, but you're absolutely welcome to use just a typical super bulky yarn. That will work perfectly here. And then we're doing an increase. And then we'll switch back to our color A yarn here. And then we're going to, with our A yarn, we'll do a single crochet, increase, and we'll do that 3 times. So single crochet, increase, and last one, single crochet, increase. So we'll close it off. And we'll begin on row 4. So row 4, we're going to increase and then single crochet 2. And we'll do that, repeat 3 times. So increase 1, single crochet 2, 1 and 2. And last one, increase, single crochet 1 and 2. And before I finish that stitch off, we're going to be switching to our color C yarn, in the next stitch. So we'll bring that around here to finish off that loop, and we'll do an increase of our color C, followed by two single crochets of our color A. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to switch back to our color C for another increase. And back to our A. And make sure my loops are all tied enough here. There we go. For 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. And then sticking with our A yarn, we're going to do increase, single crochet 2. And we'll do that twice. So we've got our increase, single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and last one, increase, single crochet 1 and 2. We'll finish off the row and get ready for row 5. We'll again start with our color A yarn. We'll single crochet 2, 1 and 2, and we'll increase and single crochet 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And before I finish off that stitch, we're going to be switching to the next, to our color C in the next stitch. We'll switch right there. And with our C yarn, we'll do an increase. We'll switch back to our A yarn for a single crochet 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll repeat that twice more. So we'll switch back to our C yarn for an increase, then back to our A yarn for single crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and back to our C for an increase, and our last set of this repeat, we'll switch back to A for 1, 2, 3. So the remainder of the row is going to be single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and increase. And that will give us a total of 33 stitches. Sorry, I've been forgetting to shout out the row count at the end of these. I mean, I know you can see them up on the screen, but that's usually something I say, and I forgot this time. So we'll close off that row. And there we go. That looks better. and we will begin row 6. So for row 6, we're going to single crochet 12 with our A yarn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we're going to switch to our C yarn. So actually let me pull out the last half of that stitch. And our C yarn is getting kind of far away to carry it. So if you want to cut it at this point instead of carry it, you're welcome to. Most of the time, my yarn's getting tangled up. Most of the time by default, I carry my yarns because if I make a mistake, then it's a lot easier to pull out. But you can also end up getting like areas that are too tight, the yarn pulling in the back. So I'm going to cut this time rather than carry. All right, so now we're going to do a single crochet 2 with our C. So 1 and 2. We'll switch back to our A yarn for 1 single crochet. A lot of color changes here in this row. Single crochet 1, switch back to C, for an increase, one and 2, back to A for a single crochet. And we'll repeat that twice. So once again, I've got to pull that out. So we'll start at our single crochet 2 of the color C. So we've got 1 and 2, and we switch to A for 1, C for an increase. I dropped a stitch there, or dropped a thread. Yarn, wow, words. Back to A for 1. Then the rest of the row goes as follows. We'll do single crochet 2 of our C, 1 and 2, and then we'll finish out with our A yarn, and we'll single crochet 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Row 7 of the head, we're going to single crochet with our A yarn 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And in the last half of that stitch, we're going to switch to our C yarn. We'll try carrying it this time, even though it is kind of a long, even though it is sort of a long span. So do a single crochet 1, and then we're going to switch back to our A yarn for 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And in the second half of that stitch, we're going to switch back to our A. So this is going to be our repeat. We'll do this repeat 4 times. We'll have 1 of the C color and then 2 of the A. So 1 C, single crochet, 2, 1, and 2 of the A. So that's our second repeat. So do that again. One with 2 of our color A. And our last repeat, 1 single crochet of C, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2 of color A. After that, we're going to single crochet 9, and that will be the end of the row. But this is our last row where we use the color C yarn, so I'm going to cut it so that it's not cumbering the rest of my yarn here. And I'll finish off, and I'll make sure to crochet over these yarn ends so that they don't come undone. So our last part is single crochet 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So that gives us a total stitch count of 35. All right, row 8, we're out of the color changes, so things are a lot more simple. So I'll teach you the repeat, and I'll let you finish it up. We're going to single crochet 5, so it's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we'll do a decrease. Work in the front loops and decrease like that. And we'll continue that all the way around until we have 30 stitches at the end. All right, so that's the end of row 8. For row 9, we're going to single crochet 12, decrease 6, and then single crochet 6. So let's get started on that. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then we're going to do our decrease 6. So we're doing the invisible decrease here. So 1, I guess I'll walk you through that for a second. Anyone who, doesn't know what the invisible decrease is, you just work through the front loop of 2 stitches. Pull your yarn loop through both of those and pull through again. And that just makes a really nice decrease. Sometimes a standard decrease can leave holes in amigurumi. And so the invisible decrease is really nice for that. All right, so that's our 4th, 5th decrease, and 6th decrease. And then we'll single crochet 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'll go ahead and close it off. So what those decreasing stitches did was they gave us this like sharper edge to the top of the head. And the bottom is still pretty loose, but yeah, it's starting to give us the shaping that we want. All right, next is row 10. And it's a nice and simple one, so I'll teach you the repeat and then we can meet back at the end of the row. So row 10, we've got single crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then decrease. I'll show you one more time. Single crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then decrease. And you'll just continue doing that all the way around. And I'll meet you back here for the last row, which is row 11. So here we are at the end of row 10. Close off, and we'll begin row 11. So here for row 11, we're going to half double crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then we'll do a half double crochet decrease. So wrap the yarn around the hook and do our invisible decrease. And it's a little hard for me to find that first loop today. Like so. So we'll do that again, half double crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then a half double crochet decrease. So go into that first loop and the first loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 3. Next we're going to single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we'll half double crochet 2, 1 and 2, and half double crochet decrease. All right, we'll go ahead and close off the row. And we'll cut a pretty lengthy yarn tail, probably about 10 inches. That's a little more than 10 inches. Because we're going to use that to attach the head to our shell. So that's what it looks like for now. So next we're going to stuff it. So to stuff, we're going to take a nylon. I've got a part of a knee-high here. But you can use any type of nylon. And just go ahead and stuff some of your fiberfill in here, not all of it. So you want it to be small enough to get in through here. So go like that. And then, like that's not enough. We still haven't filled it out properly. So you continue to add stuffing and make sure you use your fingers to kind of work it to the edges and to push it down a bit. So you want to make sure that it's good and stuffed and you get fiberfill everywhere. All right, there we go. So that is what our head is going to look like. I'm going to tie it off. And then you have a choice once you've got it knotted off. You can either just tuck the rest of your nylon in there or you can cut your nylon. And since I might use that later, we're going to cut it. And we'll leave it like that for now. And the next thing we'll do is we will attach this to the head of the, to the body of the turtle. We're going to be working with the opening here. We're going to tip the edge of the shell back so we can see what we're doing. And we're going to have our head so that our spots are up and the half double crochets from the very last row are attaching to the belly. So it takes a little bit to make sure you've got it positioned correctly, but in essence we're going to be crocheting the bottom of this. We'll be sewing actually. So we'll just get your yarn needle out and we'll use this yarn tail and we'll stitch these half double crochets to this row here in the belly, and then we'll be crocheting this last row to our green row here. I'm sorry, I keep saying crocheting, and that's not right. We're going to be sewing it on. So you can try and pin it in place, or you can just try your hand at holding it where you want it and sewing. Sometimes what works better for me than pins is going to be something like, a crochet hook, or this is a knitting needle, and just kind of weaving it through a few pieces. Something like that to just hold it on, because these projects are so big, trying to use actual pins, even though I have some pretty huge pins, it just doesn't really work that well for me. So doing something like that works better, but then you want to check. Sorry, you're going to see more of my space than you want to. Here we go. But you want to check and make sure that it looks good. So like for my project here, the head is tilted incorrectly. So twist it a little bit and try again. All right. Looks better, but I may have overdone it. There we go, that's better. All right, so once you have yours secured as you'd like it, you're going to thread your needle here, and it makes sense to start crocheting kind of across the bottom first. So we'll zoom back in here. Wow, I keep saying crocheting. It's not crocheting, it's sewing. All right, so we're going to sew here. It's always a good idea to check how it's going. Like make sure that as you sew, you're not getting it twisted. So once I get the bottom here, I'm going to double check it. I will say, I mean, the struggle of having these great big things in here is it is a little harder to sew around, but they hold the head still better. All right, so checking that, and I think it looks pretty good. So next what we're going to do is, we know that like this part of the head is what needs to be attached next, but we're going to have a little bit of a gap here. So I'm going to sew this on, and then I'm going to go close the gap. I'm going to pull this out because it's just in the way. Sorry, I don't want to make you guys sick with all the moving, but I also need to do a good job. And that means sometimes you got to get a better angle. All right, so we're going to close this up. All right, so once that's on, we can just bring our yarn needle back to the edge here and the edge of the head. Sorry, I'll try and make this a little easier to see. And we'll keep attaching this here. Remember to sew into the green row, not into the edge of the shell. All right, so now I'm going to jump down into this row. I'm going to attach just a little bit of that. So I just pulled the head in a little bit closer there, because as I'm looking at my alignment, that looks like what's going to work best. And now I'm going to use the last bit of this yarn tail to close up this gap on this side. No, that is okay. All right, when it's all sewn on, just go ahead and tie it off. I'm going to tie it off one more time. I want to make sure that that is secure. And then you can just bury it in your project. And then the last thing we're going to do in this process is we're actually going to use this yarn end. We can kind of push our shell edge down. And you'll thread your needle on to that end. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tack the edge down around the neck, because it pushes up, because the attachment of the head, it kind of makes the whole edge want to do that. So if we kind of help tack that down, it's going to keep our edge looking a little more correct. So just kind of wherever it naturally falls. Oh, and see, that was actually not far enough. So I'm going to try that again. Okay, so it wants to land a little farther down there. And then if you want to, as you're working your way to the other side, you could hit just a few of these. You don't need to tack down every single one if you don't want to. But you could. I didn't add, that's not an official instruction from the pattern. That's just like it kind of makes sense as you're on your way sort of thing. And then grab your other edge. And tack it down. Like so. And then I'm just going to knot off and weave in the end. All right, so there we go. We've got the head attached to the body. That's coming along so good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be adding the eyes and the nose and doing the shaping and really making the face come to life. To make the eyes, we'll be using a black medium weight yarn and a 3.5 millimeter hook. And we'll start with a magic ring. Magic ring like so. And then inside of the ring, we will single crochet 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Go ahead and pull that ring tight. And I know working with black yarn is so hard. See if zooming in helps us here. I'll turn on another light. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so we get like terrible glare everywhere, but can you see the stitches? Almost. Okay. That might be as good as we're going to get. I'm going to try and angle it so that you guys can see what we're doing here. So then close it off. Like so. I still have a little bit of a circle in the middle, a little hole there, but I'll tighten that up. There we go. All right. Row 2 is increase 2. So there's our increase. Wow. It's been a minute since I've worked with medium weight yarn. I'm struggling. All right, increase 2. So we've got our 2 stitches like that. And then we're doing a half double crochet increase plus a chain. So we'll do a half double crochet, then add another for a half double crochet increase. And then we'll do a chain, like so. And then we'll do a half double crochet increase in the next stitch. All right, so that is our repeat. So we'll do that again. We'll do an increase stitch, another increase stitch, half double crochet, well, half double crochet increase. So our second half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet increase in our last stitch. All right, then we'll go ahead and close it off. Sorry when this is there we go. There we go. So that is what it looks like. And it keeps coming undone for me in the middle. Not quite sure why. So cut a nice long yarn tail. and tie it off. I wanted to point out, so the reason why we have a chain stitch, well, 2 chain stitches, is to help give us like a little bit of a point. If you can see that there, I kind of had to accentuate it. And I'll do the same thing on this side. Give us just a little bit of a point so that our eye is more oblong shaped and it looks a little bit more like a real turtle's eye instead of being perfectly round like we typically do. So next we're going to do the highlights in the eye. So you'll thread, let me back this up just a little bit so we can focus better on what's going on. Okay. So go ahead and thread our yarn needle with 10 to 12 inches of white, medium weight yarn. You'll go through the back here in the second, I guess in between the first and second row of the eye, and leave just a couple inches of yarn tail on the back side. Go over 1 and 2 and back down through. And then going over 1, you'll come up. And then over 1 again, you'll go down. So that's how I like to do the highlights in the eyes of my amigurumi. Then you'll just cut an inch or so of the excess and then knot the yarns in the back. I like to include in this knot my yarn tail from the magic ring just to secure it as well and kind of get it out of the way. And so that's what the highlights are going to look like. So you'll repeat the same thing for the second eye, but you'll do the highlights mirrored. So I'll show you that in just a second. So to do the highlights in the other eye, you'll once again hold the eye so that it's oblong in this direction. And we'll go from the back to the front. We'll go over 1, 2. I'm going to give myself a little more yarn tail. We'll go over 1 in that same row and then over 1 again. Let's see if I can see what I'm doing in this black yarn. That's in between a stitch. There we go. So our highlights should look like mirror images of each other. So once again, we'll knot these off in the back. And then we're ready to attach them, to sew them to the head. So we'll do that next. All right, to sew the eyes onto the head, you're going to start with your head like so. I'll back this up a smidge. You want to make sure that it's nice and straight. And you're going to pin your eyes just kind of right below the brown spots. And I like the front corner of my eye to be in the 5th row. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about right there. Oops. And we'll pin it into place. Like so. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And my paper is sliding. Okay. Once you have them placed, you always want to check and make sure that you like where they are once they're pinned. Like, I think this one looks good. This one looks a little bit funny. I think it needs to move a little bit. And it might end up covering most of this brown spot, just based on how much my work twisted this time when I was crocheting. There we go. So once you have your eyes placed where you want them, you go ahead and thread your yarn needle with that yarn tail, and you just start sewing it in place. I'm going to tuck these yarn ends under the eye in just a minute. I've got to get it at least partially sewn on first. So we'll just work through that outer edge of the eye, and then just kind of like right under where the stitches are placed in the head. And if you want to embroider on eyelashes, you can absolutely do that. I'm pretty happy with how it looks without eyelashes, so I'm not going to on this project. All right, so here I'm about 3/4 of the way around. So I'm going to take my yarn ends and just stuff them in here. And then I'm going to take some extra, either yarn scraps or some fiber fill, and put it under there, and then we'll finish sewing around. And what that does is it gives it a three-dimensional look, which I really like having, you know, soft sewn on eyes. But what I like about safety eyes is that they are 3D. And so we get that same effect by stuffing some fiber fill under the eye and then finish sewing. And once you've got your eye sewn on all the way, you can just knot it off, which I'm going to try and do right here at this edge. And you can just bury the ends in the project. There we go. So now go ahead and repeat that same process on this eye. And then we will work on shaping the head. So to shape the head, once we've got our eyes sewn on, we're going to thread our yarn needle with 10 to 12 inches of our white yarn. And what we're going to do is we're just going to insert the needle right here at the corner of the eye. And we'll push it through the other side of the head, right at the corner of that eye. Like so. So you'll pull till there's about half left on this side. You'll go down a stitch, and then you want to find the center of the chin about row 6. So you're looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So about here is where you want your needle to come out. It's a lot easier for me if I flip it upside down. So go like that. Then you'll take it off. We'll flip it back upright and we'll do the other side. So we'll thread that on. Actually, I need to pull a little extra. Then we'll do the same thing. We're going to go down a stitch. And then we're going to go aim for this same row, but we'll try for like 1 stitch to half stitch over. You just want to make sure it's not in the exact same hole. All right. So there you have it. So it's a little hard to hold still. Go ahead and give it 1 little knot there and then pull. And what you want is for the eyes to come together and to get a little bit of a dimple in the chin. So yeah, so you can see how much that just gave it like a sense of life. It looks like a real thing now, not just a toy. Well, it still looks like a toy, but you know, it gave it some character. So when you're happy with how much the eyes and the chin dimple in, you'll just knot it off again. You can even do it a 3rd time just for good luck. And then weave in the ends. Well, bury the ends in the project. Like so. And then the next thing you're going to do is we're going to embroider on the nose. So keep your yarn needle out. And we'll get just a little bit of our black medium weight yarn here. Like so. And we're going to mostly be working here kind of in this outer edge of the first row. So you're just going to go kind of under at an angle with the shape of that circle. And leave an inch or so here. Go back in there and then kind of matching on that other side. Go up. And then you'll go down and over into that same stitch. So when I look at that, I think this one looks too straight and that one looks a little too curved. So I'm going to try that again. So when it comes to embroidering on the face, or yeah, doing any embroidery, which people who actually embroider are like, you don't know what you're doing. That's probably true. I just do this for amigurumi. But when you're actually doing it, it's so much about just like how it looks. And so if there's any little tweaks that you need to make, go ahead and do it. So I'm going to try that again. Because I've got so much of a slant here, I'm going to try and make it just a little bit more vertical. but I'm going to do the same thing. See if I can get them to match. There we go. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. So once you've got your nose on, go ahead and knot it off and then bury that in the project. I've lost this side just a tad, so I'm going to pull it back up. There we go. All right, so that brings us to the end of our second video. So I'll see you in the third video where we're going to make the legs and the tail and get them sewn on.